Alright, this is an AudioGuts video for the Pierce Audio Products PAP MOAB motor, mother of all bass. It has an ID, an inner diameter on. Now you're measuring the gap, okay? So it has an ID of 97 millimeter, an OD of 112 millimeter. So that's the OD of the gap. You only care about the gap. Don't measure the fucking coil. Measure the fucking gap, all right? And then 30 millimeter top plate. A lot of guys will measure the depth. You don't need to measure the depth. Just tell me how many slugs there are. In this case, there's 4 1-inch slugs, so I know I have 4 inches of clearance. Okay, that's plenty. There is some side vents, very small, not a big deal. Bolt hole circle. What you want to do is measure the diameter of the bolt hole circle, right? So I already know it's 127 millimeter, right? Which is the standard 5-inch. This one also uses the 180 millimeter bolt hole circle. Most of these will be metric. Why? Because they're made in China. And the Chinese work better with metric. Less mistakes, okay? So, and that's including JL Audio on their W7 and W6 subs, especially anything below that is all made in China. It's not a big deal. It's just the way that it is, okay? And so when I ask you for the gap dimensions, this is what I mean. I need the ID of the gap, right, which is the OD, outer diameter of the pole, okay? And then I need the ID of the top plate, which is the OD, outer diameter of the gap. So the outer diameter of the gap is going to be the same as the ID of the top plate. This is the top plate, okay? And as you can see in the design that David Moore had created, to show you a couple of different versions of the top plate, you always want to measure the gap, the inside. Sometimes you got to stick again, that's why I use these prison rulers, is you want to stick it, you need something flexible to stick in there, and then use a little flashlight. You can sit there and measure. Sometimes, like on the kickers, they'll have like a raised edge. On that MA Audio Hardcore, it has a raised edge. So again, it's actually unnecessary, but sometimes they do it in a design. Again, you don't want to judge that, that's the way it fucking goes. So this one is perfectly flat. And the reason why they did that is because it makes it more affordable. There's less tool time, right? And when I say tool time, less time on the CNC tools, the machines, a mill or a lathe, okay, something like that, or even a 6-axis machine. Doubt it, but that's how it goes. So all they did was drill some vents this way, and then they did the 2 bolt hole circles. Very cheap, very affordable, okay? So when I ask for the gap dimensions, that's what I need. When I ask for the BHC, that's bolt hole circle. I need the diameter of the 2 most opposing bolts. Okay, I need to know this diameter from this one to its furthest buddy over here. That distance is typically 127 millimeter. Okay, which also comes out to about 5 inches. Okay, this one has also a standard size, and a lot of times most of the bolt hole circles that you get from China are going to be increments of 5 millimeter. So like 155, 145, 150, 160, 165, typically not 170, 75, but typically it then starts jumping in centimeters, meaning it goes from 170 to 180 if you have that. I think the biggest one is usually 165, and then it jumps to 180 typically. And that has to do with the availability of the frames of the previous work that other manufacturers have done before you. Okay, if you're sourcing this in China or whatever. So in this, I'm going to include this brand new rag that I got. It's full of jizz. It's full of the little goodies, all nice and secure. But that's the AudioGuts feature of this video that I wanted to just document. So in case somebody remotely from you, or if you don't have a caliper, you can look at this video and you can know the dimensions of the motor, because I'm giving them to you right now, okay? At least on this version. They can change without warning, and sometimes that happens. But this is a good mark in the sand for you to just keep in mind on this particular motor. So I'm going to title this video AudioGuts PAP MOAB motor, and then also how to measure gap dimensions again, and also the bolt hole circle, BHC. Okay, you got it? All right. God damn it, one last thing. You also want to specify what these are tapped for. So you want to say 127 BHC by and the number of positions. So in this case, it's 6. So that would be 127 by, meaning X, 6 by M6, and then M6 is typically M6 by 1. That's the threads per whatever. So it's 1 millimeter threads. So that would actually look like this. By 6 by M6 by 1. If you want to be very specific. Sometimes when you're dealing with the old TC sounds, you actually get some of the SAE imperial standards, right? Like quarter 20 or something like that. T.Lo, I know, used a number 1032 or a number 1024. And again, that's a number 10 bolt with 24 threads per inch, or was it 1020? Yeah, 1024 or 1032. So it's 24 threads per inch or 32 threads per inch. The 32 is more fine. That's called a fine thread. And most of the bolts will have a fine thread and a coarse thread, depending on what material you're going into, okay? Learn this shit. This is man shit. This is very useful, helpful shit. Even if you're not a man, even if you're like Uncle Parker up there with the nerdy girls, learn this shit. This is very important shit to learn. And if you're looking for a man, the way that Uncle Parker is, you can impress a man by knowing this kind of shit, okay? All right.